again, everybody, and welcome to another Zoom edition of ATI. Dan with Brian, Matt, and Jason joining us once again. Thanks for joining, Jason. Good to see you. You're classing up the joints here as usual. We're going to get to a lot today. We're going to talk about all the major leagues and what they're sort of their plans to get started. Some are further along than others as far as the preparations. Let's start with the NBA. It looks like things are going to really happen with the NBA. They're going to play at Disney World. It looks like things are going to start. The actual real games are going to start, I think, July 31st is the latest that I've seen. It's going to be 22 teams, 9 from the East, 13 from the West. There'll be, 8 regular season games to get it down to the playoffs, and then we'll do the playoffs from there. And I think the NBA Finals will run through mid-October, I believe. So correct me if I'm wrong on any of that. And what does everyone think of what the NBA is doing here?
I just want to see sports. I don't give a shit. I just want to see something on TV. I don't care what it is. I don't care who it is. As long as I see professional athletes doing something somewhat competitive, I'm in. Anybody else? Go ahead. That's all I just want to say.
No, that's fair. It's really difficult because I'm torn between the people that are complaining about how the NBA is going to be an issue where everyone's in 3 hotels and they're not going to have enough to do and they're going to only have certain amenities. I'm sorry, you're going to have the possibility of your own personal chefs making whatever you want for all the athletes. You have endless video games, you have endless activities, movies that aren't even released yet, and all you have to do is play basketball with no one in the crowds but millions and millions of billions of people on TV. And you're going to get paid your full salary. I'm kind of confused on why that part that are questioning the amenities of what they're going to do. The other half is, I get it. They want their families to come in. They don't want to spend 3-4 months away from their families. I get that. But I think Windhorst did the whole thing. After 50 days, there's only going to be, I think, 6-7 teams left. Right. So 50 days away from your family where you're a professional athlete in this strange once-in-a-lifetime, once-in-a-generation event, I think you can handle 50 days away from your family without obscure circumstances, illnesses, births of children, things like that.
It's not going to be the family, though, Matt. It's the hookers. It's the hookers that really need to get down.
James Harden and Kawhi are going to have to struggle. Yeah. I get that. But.
Yeah, there's not going to be enough dollar bills to go around in the state of Florida.
I think ultimately it boils down to a lot of the players or representatives of them trying to milk more out of the situation, right? Because they're being asked to do something that isn't of the norm, and instead of seeing this as an opportunity to push branding or to, I don't know, let's say do a public service and just bringing this back, it's, well, what's in it for me for adapting to these ridiculous circumstances that frankly to a normal person aren't even that ridiculous. But there is a little bit of a slippery slope with going down the line of, hey, these are athletes being paid millions and millions of dollars and just saying that they should be up for anything at that rate. I recognize that there is some potential additional risk coming with this, but let's not turn this into something it's not when other people are struggling, either from health or employment or otherwise. Come on, guys, let's make a deal here.
I'm also intrigued that they released the entire 100+ page document involving everything that was going on. I understand people want to know, how are they going to do this and that? But basically giving away your whole game plan to the entire public, basically saying, hey, if you want to come in and try to, see these people, we're going to have security, but this is where everyone is. This is what team is in what hotel and for how long. That was a little shady to me.
You got to let the hookers know where the guys are. You got to stimulate this economy. No, but Matt, to get another point, that shows you the transparency the NBA has versus the NHL, who I don't know what the hell they're doing even at all. And baseball, at least they're talking about it, but they don't know what they're doing either. Football looks like it's going to be okay. But NBA is listen, this is our plan. This is what we're going to do so everybody knows. Is it going to work? Probably not. It's going to be when your boss yells at you and you're like, okay, and you do everything by the book. And then once you guys, they realize you're not a bunch of monkeys and you're going to kill each other, then everything kind of slows down and things are going to kind of lax. And stuff might change anyway, or there might be another outbreak for all we know.
Yeah, I was going to say that the transparency that the NBA is putting out there is pretty refreshing, I'd say. Yeah. So we know everything about what the plan is. And then getting back to the 50 days, if you're in the Disney World bubble for 50 days, that means that you're competing for the NBA championship. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And what do you think about the implications of how this plays out on future seasons? Do you adjust to a new cycle, or do you just play catch up on the next one, and then you're back to normal
I think they talked about that in their agreement. I think that they would either make the preseason shorter. They're going to have to adjust next year somehow. Like, I know in Major League Baseball, they've already changed the international signing period from July to October, or no, to January, I think. So all these sports are going to have to modify, because you can't. We've seen what happens when we're talking about the Bulls documentary. When you play almost year round, it gets to you eventually. And these guys, I know it's, professional sports, it's a game, blah, blah, blah. But it takes an emotional and physical toll. And these guys have families too as well. So they're going to have to figure out something. I don't know if I would be in favor of making the preseason a little shorter in the early sports coming up, because, that's not really a big thing. The players want a shorter preseason. I'm sure the owners do too. They want more regular season games so they make more money. But I think that's what's going to happen, at least next year anyway.
And I definitely – so I've always thought I'm all on the kill baseball thing. And the way my mindset works is hockey and basketball, they might start in October. They really don't start till like New Year's type thing, and Christmas for basketball, really.
Come to my house and have pancakes on New Year's Eve. Let's watch this game that nobody gives a shit about.
Basically. But you're coming up with the NFL, right? And the NFL owns the fall. And now I'm not going to sit here and tell basketball players to play in 100-degree gyms in the middle of summer, because I think that's in hockey in the middle of summer. That's just questionable at best.
Matt, it's air conditioning.
You get in TD Garden in the middle of July, I guarantee it'll still get pretty warm in there. Especially
before you were born, it used to be hot in Boston.
Not the Boston Garden. There's AC in all these arenas.
To be fair, the ice quality came into question with the St. Louis Blues last year, and I know the Dallas Stars have had issues with that before. And the worst thing you could have is competitive integrity questions with how the finals play out in sports.
All you do is call out their pride. They'll bitch about playing, in hot weather in Florida, but these are the same knuckleheads that will go to Rucker Park in August and play because they want to be tough.
True, but if you can guarantee that it'll be a decent playable temperature, sure, that's fine. But if you have any questions that something's going to go wrong, where all of a sudden you can't play hockey games in Boston for 4 days or 5 days because there's a malfunction in the ice, or you can't play a basketball playoff game in LA because something's happened to the Staples Center and it's 100 degrees inside. These are issues that I do understand, but I think if you start basketball and have that go from the July to like August thing, I think that's better big picture. But I also don't care for baseball, so that's
well, I think the big reason they spread it out too is because of television, and there's only so many channels to go around, and hockey still doesn't have a national television deal. I don't know if they'll ever get one again. But for people, like Jason and Matt, and other people that are big hockey fans, it'd be really nice to be able to see hockey without having to pay for it. And, it's really not an issue now because of streaming and a few other things. But I mean, it's still kind of sad that hockey doesn't have that national television deal like boring baseball does, or some of these other games, or like on like a Thursday, you can watch the two crappiest football teams in the world play each other. We'll get more ratings than just about anything on that night.
Hockey is the one that needs the biggest separation. I think hockey playoffs are generally regarded and pretty well, but given that it overlaps a lot with the NBA, it makes it tough. But that getting distance from the NBA would do them massive favors, I think, because it would just be falling into the dog days of summer. And as Matt said, I think a lot of people could care less about baseball.
So sticking with the NBA, we'll get to the NHL in a second. Let's touch on Kyrie Irving briefly, or however long you guys want to get into it. But Kyrie, as usual, is being a nuisance to everyone. He's not going to be playing anyways because he's hurt. And then he was bitching that he still wants to go to Orlando even though he's not going to be playing. But because of COVID, we have to be careful. So we don't need people who aren't actually going to be playing there. So what the hell are you talking about, Kyrie? And then he wants to start his own league too.
Yeah.
So just take it from there.
He wanted to go down and recruit and basically, be a little weasel and go over to the Lakers and be like, well, LeBron's a nice guy and all, but let me tell you, I played with him. So why don't you come to Brooklyn? And it's like, come on, he's not going to do that. So, and then just all this other BS about, well, if I'm not going to play, he's the vice president of their union. So like what he says should actually matter. He's not a joke like we think he is in Boston. To the guys in the league, he actually is a voice that they actually do listen to. I don't know why, but I mean, he got elected as vice president. They had an election. He won. I don't know if it's kind of like, you just raise your hand and they automatically give you the vice president. I don't know how that works in the NBA, but as vice president, and Chris Paul is the president, and he
Right.
hasn't said anything negative about Kyrie yet. LeBron's been completely quiet during this whole thing, which I think is kind of interesting too. But maybe he just doesn't care either. But yeah, Kyrie, it's all about him. We saw that firsthand when we thought we had a clear path to the Eastern Conference Finals, and things didn't work out. He got hurt. The team did better. He came back. They did worse, and then we got rid of him again, and we're better again. Kyrie, great player, but from the neck up, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't do it for me.
So this is obviously a very interesting subject, because obviously the big picture of why he says they shouldn't play is such a pivotal part of American culture and society right now that, and obviously it's an important part of the world, the whole Black Lives Matter and all that. But if it was coming from any other mouth besides Kyrie, I would believe, I would buy into it.
He's
I'd
like,
be with it.
What do people care about now? Black lives? Yeah, it's because of Black lives. That's why he's
Kyrie.
Well, yeah.
That's it. That's the issue here. And I can believe the whole Kennedy conspiracy he has. I can believe the flat Earth. That's a whole other thing. It's if there was more backing, if he had LeBron behind him, if he had Kawhi, if he had Russell Westbrook, if he had guys like that, I would 100% understand it.
And you haven't heard of
Kyrie. It's Kyrie, Avery Bradley, and Dwight Howard. 3 people I'm not buying into. I'm sorry. That's just me.
Avery Bradley probably has the best credibility of those 3, right?
Probably.
He had the best statement where he's kind of like, hey, I want to play, but we need to do more. He wasn't as flippant as Kyrie. I didn't hear what Dwight Howard said, but I mean, Dwight Howard he's got all kinds of issues. So I don't want to get into that guy, but I think
the NBA has always been the best league as far as politically and as far as Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. So
all the sports outside of baseball, they're dominated by African American athletes. And, when you're paying millions of dollars to watch them play, they have a great platform to voice opinions and, make cultural changes. And it's a great way for them they have our attention, my attention, everybody watching. So here's their opportunity. If they want to make changes, people are going to listen. At least, they don't have a choice. You're going to listen to them anyway, regardless. But it's nice instead of, we played 110%, we're going to play better tomorrow, like a Kawhi Leonard interview, But it's nice when there's actually some substance behind it.
And I want to let Jason talk too, so I'm sorry to kind of go back in, but the thing is playing the game gives you such a larger platform. Obviously, LeBron and Kyrie have these platforms because of what they do, and people will listen outside of sports. But you haven't heard, Kawhi Leonard doesn't tweet or post on Instagram. Russell Westbrook doesn't tweet, post on Instagram. They don't post social media videos, but they say things in those post-game press conferences that they might not and won't say elsewhere. And that's why I think coming back and playing allows some players that don't have a social media presence to get a message out. Someone like James Harden, Russell Westbrook, that speak very, I think they speak pretty well. Obviously, they might have people that help write things for them, but I think they're leaders. I think people listen, especially the younger community, because of the video game numbers they put up. And I don't think they have a voice right now because they don't want to. Whereas if they put a mic in their face after they drop 40 and have a triple double, they might say something that would have a lot more pull.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'll add is that I think the NBA, or rather the players, in a pretty big way, dropped the ball in the China situation earlier this year. And to the extent that they're trying to make a more serious stance on things, I think goes a long way into potentially repairing that. But I think a lot of it kind of circles back to the fact that Kyrie's the one leading the charge, just makes all of this a little bit more dubious.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but I can't wait to see some basketball. July 31st, as of now, we'll cross our fingers. Hopefully things will actually happen, and we'll see some hoops. I have no idea what's happening with the NHL. Someone tell me what's happening, because I have no idea.
But does anybody?
They're waiting to figure out the 2 host cities. Supposedly, they've already come up with them, but there's only rumors now. Teams are allowed back July 10th or 15th, one of the 2, to start actual training. And then there's technically a phase 3. That means when they'll start actual play, but no one knows when that is.
If they actually do start playing hockey again, though, our boys in Boston, the Bruins, are what? They're one of the favorites, right?
They're 6-1 favorites according to DraftKings.
Is it just playoffs automatically matter, or is there some regular season games left?
Oh God.
It's a little more convoluted than that. There's the top several seeds. So it is technically straight into playoffs, but it's an expanded playoff format. The people who are top seeds have like a some sort of round robin tournament for seeding at the very top, and then the people who are on the bottom portion of the bracket are playing for what you would normally consider to be those playoff slots. So by expanding it, you have a bit of a more play-in format.
Is there a parade for the President's Trophy in Boston this year?
I don't think so.
It is worth noting that I think technically by the rules, if the season had just ended, then the Bruins would have technically been Stanley Cup champions as the ones with who are leading with the most wins of the season. But,
okay, that being said, the two hockey gurus we have, 50% chance they win the cup, or are they going to choke again?
He just told you 6-1.
Well, that's Vegas. What do you guys think?
I'll take Vegas over your 50% line. So
okay.
They're the best team, but they also
But they're the Bruins.
are on fire and they're just rolling. And
it's not even that it's the Bruins. It's just the nature of hockey, right? Like there's just
any hot goalie, yeah.
Right. So many things could pop up. It's probably the sport with the most variance out there, just in terms of the good and the bad teams and the nature of should see goals happen, and that can make a big difference. So certainly feel good about them, but anything could happen. They had the long season last year. That's certainly weighing down on them. But maybe you're right, 50%. It either happens or it doesn't. So.
And they still have Tuukka Rask, so anything is possible to go wrong.
The long drink.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, also, hasn't it been sort of a curse for the team that wins the President's Cup has not done that well for the last 10, 15 years?
Yeah, but I always attribute that with teams like the Senators, who I remember being like regular season tryhards and then just stunk.
They had a string there for a while, right?
Yeah, I think it helps that the Bruins. It's a very seasoned group who that's not the part that would go to their heads by any particular matter. They know what they're playing for. So.
And I also think Jason mentioned they had such a long season last year, but I think this break probably helped that, so they don't have to just go for another long season. There was a time off that as long as they get their mindset back, I think they'll be okay.
As long as they don't see the Blues, they'll be fine.
Got it.
Yeah. We'll be singing. Meanwhile, baseball, the negotiations between the players and the owners, I mean, it can only be described as a shit show, right? I mean, it's been horrendous. So fill me in on what the latest is there, because like I said, it's a shit show.
A couple of the mouthpieces, I just tweeted a thing from our account. Chris Russo said, oh, well, everything's all set. They got nothing to worry about. And then Keith Law said, this guy's a blowhard who's paid by MLB. Don't trust a word he says. I was like, wow, that's pretty, he lit that tweet on fire. But I guess it's going to be the players want to do 70 games. The owners want to do only 50. 3 hours ago, they said they had a deal in place. Then an hour later, they said they don't have a deal in place. The commissioner can say, you play 50, this is the start date. He can do that. They agreed to that in the last negotiations back in March. They got to do something, just because I can't deal with another year of luxury tax where they can't sign anybody. I mean, if you look at who the Red Sox have now, it's a couple guys in Pawtucket, basically, as their starting rotation. And next year, if they don't play this year, then they have the luxury tax rollover, and they're not going to be able to sign anybody, and they're going to suck for 2 years. I can deal with them sucking for 1 year, but 2 years is crazy. But a lot of the players have been on Twitter saying, when and where, just tell me where. It's been kind of trending on Twitter. And then another thing, though, that people don't like about the short season is the Nationals weren't doing too well until later on in the season. And your good teams, your Astros, your Yankees, your few other teams, they really don't pull away till after the All-Star break. So teams like Pittsburgh and some other teams like the short season because they says they give them a chance. So.
And I love that. Sorry.
I think it was – no, I was just going to say, going on the point that Brian just made, I think it was Peter Gammons I heard say this shortened season helps some of these younger teams that could get off to a kind of a sprint, and it could make it exciting.
And I know just like a lot of the other sports, they're changing the playoff structure. There's going to be more teams involved both this year and next year. And then the DH is going to be universal, which is nice because then you're going to see – you don't have to see pitchers hit and just, guys bunting over and stuff, which traditionalists make a big deal about. But it's nice to see a guy who plays in the National League who can't field anymore be able to hit a couple more years and not have to move to like the Angels, like Pujols or somebody else.
I'm such a first off, hashtag kill baseball. I love the idea of the shortened season and actually making every game matter. Cause I know Brian and I have talked about this where like, you'll have an opinion on the Red Sox May 13th and they're like 8-8, sales struggling. And you're like, it's the long season. And you're right? When you have 162 games, everything balances out. That's why baseball can be such an analytically driven sport. You deal with an 0 for 50 run because eventually you're going to have a 30 for 50 run, right? And it all balances out.
Jackie Bradley.
Basically. But I would love for that just to throw a wrench in everything and cause chaos and have a team like, I don't know, maybe the Marlins catch lightning in a bottle for 50 games and they end up being the best team when over the regular season, they would only go 40 and 120. I love that chaos and making every game mean something. And I mean, obviously, my initial opinion, like I just said, but if we're going to have baseball, make it exciting and make it mean something every night.
Well, I think you're right. It's exactly what baseball needs to like shake things up from the traditionalists. And maybe it has to be something this drastic to really unwind things, because in its current state, not even just the players arguing with the owners right now, but trajectory looks pretty poor.
And if you've played fantasy baseball, the first 2 months, nobody knows what the hell they're doing anyway. The guys you think are going to be good suck. The guys you never heard of, you pick up, and you got to sell high before those guys start to tank. So you're going to have a couple of guys, like, you'll have a guy lead the league in home runs. You're like, he's from AAA. And then they find out he can't hit breaking pitches or whatever, and he disappears. But you're going to have a lot of hot teams in the beginning. And it's going to be a matter of, I don't know if teams are going to try and do like the Tampa Bay model and use like an opener, or they might do like what Cleveland did a couple years ago and just shorten that game to like 5 innings and then have like a super bullpen. You can do that for 50 games. You can't do that for 162. Yeah. And I think a lot of teams are going to try and bring in those guys who can throw 100, for 6th, 7th, 8th inning, and they're going to try and win that way. Because it's a lot cheaper to do that than it's cheaper to pay relievers than starting pitcher.
I think it'll also be interesting just to see like what teams actually make that adjustment, because I would guess a lot of them don't, right? And they just say, we're just going to approach this like any normal season, and you're going to start to separate people real quickly with those sort of strategies.
There's 8 teams confirmed that they don't want to play it all this year. So
yeah. So a couple of things, Brian, Dan, you talked about the whole just let us know when and where thing. And I found it interesting that it took Trout this long. The biggest name in the game, probably could be a Hall of Famer if he retired today type thing. There's the argument there. It took him this long, and he just said, name a place, when and where, and we'll be there, right? So what's the first thing the players and the Player Association do after MLB says when and where? They counteroffer with another offer. How do you do that after your best and most marketable player says when and where, everyone gets behind him, says this is what we want to do, and then the Players Association counters back with, I know you said when and where and how long, but we want to do 70 games instead. That's not how this works. If you settle and say, screw it, we're ready to play, you don't make a counteroffer to their offer. That just pissed me off.
He is their best player. He is not their most marketable. In fact, I think Mike Trout is just like a borderline meme in terms of in terms of the media at this point. Like, the fact that you told me Mike Trout said something is like, well, that's pretty weird, right? Like,
yeah,
I'd have to fact check.
Yeah, how do you know his girlfriend didn't grab his phone, just tweet it? And he's like, whatever.
Yeah, or some deep voice technology.
He probably
or
doesn't
like
even care, to tell you the truth. He's like, yeah, if I play, I play. It's the guys in the minor leagues, which Major League Baseball, the Players Union just gave them another $1 million to minor league players because a lot of them aren't getting paid at all. They only had 5 rounds of the draft this year. So after the 5th round, it was, here's your $20,000 bonus. A lot of guys in the Dominican Republic and other guys graduating high school were kind of depending on that money, and MLB nixed that as well. So they made a lot of changes as well, money-wise. And I mean, I think that there's some weaker market teams that might have some trouble, but I know that like just because the market isn't good doesn't mean that the owners don't have a lot of money. Like I know, like Jason, the guy who owns the Twins, he's a billionaire, I believe, right?
The Target guy.
I would guess that everyone who owns a baseball team.
But like some of the some of the teams where you would think they're not a big television market, they're actually pretty affluent. Where like I think like Henry, he worked in like the financial planning industry. He actually lost a lot since 2008. Not the Fenway Group, but him personally himself. So there's money everywhere to be made, and I just want to see baseball.
And if if MLB is not able to have a season this year and all the other major sports do,
they're
I
dead.
just feel like it's going to be so embarrassing and devastating for baseball moving forward in comparison to the other sports.
Absolutely.
And maybe that's for the best, though, right? Like, maybe just legitimately, like, this is the final straw. Like, now you guys have to start over, figure something out, or maybe as Matt said, baseball is just dead. I don't know.
Major League Lacrosse.
So I am all about this, just changing it, because baseball, it's what you do in the summer, right? You can go and you can have a couple beers with your friends and you're at a game, and yeah, there's a sporting event, but if you want to talk to your friends that maybe you haven't seen in a while, you can. And that's what baseball is. And that's okay, right? You're not going to go and live on every inch of and every breath of every second like a playoff hockey game or maybe a football game. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that two pitchers are going to throw 6 innings each, they're going to be 100 pitches, there's going to be maybe 5 hits on each side, it's going to take 4 hours, I got to get to work in the morning, that's a problem. So
you speak like someone who's covered 9-inning high school baseball games before.
Yeah. But obviously, like, if I don't want baseball to go away forever, I mean, that would be entertaining, but I don't want that. I want, like Jason said, change baseball for the better. And I'm gonna get boring here, but the change from the dead ball to the live ball era was the last time there was a global pandemic, the Spanish flu, from 1919 to 1920. I know that's boring. I can't believe I brought up the dead ball era, but
Matt's been saving that fact for weeks now, I bet.
Historian Matt Custodia.
Peter Gammon's fortune cookies. I still have an idea in my head.
But at the same time, it was a game-altering change, right? And it all happened at the same time of a pandemic. So maybe if good can come out of it, who knows?
I'm bored as shit. I want sports. I'm going nuts. I've been home for a couple months, doing this work from home thing. It's great. You spend time with your kids. You spend time with your wife. No. I need sports. I need it now. I don't care what it is. I need to see it. I need to see it right now on television.
There you go. Let's end with a topic that I guess it's fun, but it's also depressing, and that's Tom Brady in a Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey. What was everyone's initial sort of reaction to it? Did you throw up? Did you cry? Did you laugh? And then cry?
I scrolled to the next tweet. Did not faze me one bit.
I really think people are going to turn on him. I think people are going to acknowledge you as a great quarterback, but I think people are going to start talking about Guerrero a lot more, especially because we're bitter fans in Boston. We're gonna overanalyze any creepy thing we possibly can now because he's not on the Patriots anymore.
No, I mean this isn't Jacoby Ellsbury, right? Like this is somebody different, and it's what's the cheesy quote? Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. There you go. That's Tom Brady right there.
He lives with a woman. He has to say stuff like that every once in a while.
I don't. I live by myself again.
Oh, great news.
Let's mix it up.
I just it's Brady, right? So it's just like we're all going to be upset right now because it's the fresh breakup in our mind. But we all know that Belichick was the bigger issue between the two. Kraft was not willing to step in. We all are angry at everyone for the whole situation. And we take it out on Brady because he's the one that's not here.
We don't know that yet until we see the 10-part documentary series.
The guy who looks like Matt Patricia is telling us not to worry.
Hey, Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback, okay?
But now, how much do you want to see him suck in Tampa?
I won't be rooting for him. I don't think I'll necessarily be rooting against him. I'm I'll just be following it and seeing what happens. But I definitely won't be like rooting for him to go to the Super Bowl.
Now he plays like 1 year there maybe and he's done, you think?
That's
maybe
what I think because of the documentary. The documentary comes out, that's going to air a lot of dirty laundry that he's not going to be ready for in the league. So
we'll see. The last thing I would just touch on is it was great to have the PGA Tour back. And I watched a few hours on Sunday. That was pretty much all I watched, but it was great to actually have live sports. It seemed like they pulled it off pretty well.
How are they doing it?
Say that again?
How are they doing it? Like, how does that all work? No fans, right?
They're still playing. They're playing at all the usual courses they would play at. It's just the big difference is just no fans, and then there's less media there. Some of the announcers are not on site. They're like in the studio in the
Have
golf.
they noticed the scores go up because there's less distractions?
I mean,
I
there's
don't
only
think
been
so.
there's only been one tournament so far, so I don't
Okay.
know. Yeah.
Because
But-
some
I mean,
people
alternatively, like, have these guys been getting the same practice that they would have been normally? And I don't know how that sort of preparation has led into this. I assume most of them have access to some sort of private clubs that have been open through most of this. I know golf was kind of one of the things that was wedged out, but yeah, I don't know. I don't watch golf. I don't care.
That was one of the interesting things listening, right? So they said some guys hadn't picked up a golf club since like the last tournament, and other guys, like you said, Jason, golf clubs were one of the first things to reopen because of distancing. I thought it was entertaining. I love that there's these smaller tournaments now that get the same massive like names. So even if we're not like Dan and we don't know every single golfer, we can go and watch a random Sunday or weekend match, and we know most of the names because there's the top 30, 35 golfers in the world.
I just
So
read
even
the
if
title on the bottom of the screen. I have no idea who the guy is until it
Yeah.
says what his name is.
But it allows for it that they're not just there at the majors. They're there at the random RBC Heritage Classic this weekend, right? It's the first time they've had more than 100 previous winners in a Heritage Classic tournament ever.
Okay, yeah, so people are doing better.
Hmm.
And then Matt, NASCAR is still going, right? They started up again too, right?
So NASCAR is back. They were doing Sunday, Wednesday things. They're now back to just every Sunday. They allowed 1,000 fans this past weekend in Florida. They were specially chosen. It wasn't just random.
They were like
allowing
healthcare workers, right?
healthcare and military workers, and each person got to bring a guest. And then this weekend in Alabama, Talladega, they're allowing 5,000 fans if you bought tickets into the inn. So,
Speaking of fans, did you guys see what happened with the WWF stuff? They were using like
fake crowds.
They were using like secondary performers as people to fill up the space in the crowds because it's all at their like training center or something like that. And then one of them got the coronavirus and they had to shut everything down because of it.
God, attaboy WWF, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
You're talking about NASCAR, Matt, really quick. I know part of Major League Baseball's agreement, they're going to have advertisements on the uniforms this year and next year.
Really?
Yeah, just kind of like, the NBA has like the little logos.
Yeah.
They're going to have stuff like that just to draw some revenue.
You're telling me the Yankees and the Red Sox are going to be okay with that?
Yeah, it's going to be like the GE logo, that like the Celtics have, kind of something like that, something small. I guess all the uniforms are going to have the Nike swoosh on them this year anyway.
Interesting.
All right, I think that's it. Anything else we missed before we say goodbye?
Next time we do this, I better see some sports on TV. I'm getting desperate.
Hey, soccer's there.
Bundesliga.
It's sports.
Premier League starting this weekend?
I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to talk about it.
Why?
Because Arsenal lost horrendously.
Okay.
That's awful.
That's it for Brian. Jason, thanks so much. And Matt, I'm Dan. We'll see you next time. Spin the damn music.